Hi, welcome to lecture number 20 of the Ultimate Python course. In this lecture, we are going to talk about loops, especially for loop. Okay, so please watch my videos at 2x speed. I will be very slow while explaining. Okay, please watch my videos at 2x speed. Don't write the notes. Notes will be given to you in the description. Notes and this PPT will be given to you in the description. Okay, now what are loops? Why are they useful? So whenever you want to repeat a block of code again and again, then loops will come very handy. Whenever you want to repeat a block of code multiple times, then loops will become handy. You don't have to write the same code multiple times. So same block of code need not be written multiple times. It can be executed multiple times. And it saves your effort and ensures that repetitive tasks can be automated. You can automate the tasks. Now, what is the purpose of loops? One is efficiency. Efficiency means you need not write the code manually many times. You just write it once and run it many times. And it automates tasks efficiently. So whatever tasks you have, it automates them, right? So automated means no manual intervention, right? Now automation, I'll give you an example of automation. So first benefit is it avoids manual rewriting. It is efficient. Second is it is useful for automation. Let us say you have 2000 people. You have 2000 people and they have some marks like ID and some marks associated with it. Now let us say you want to find out the person with the highest number of marks. You don't have to sit down and go through the entire list to find out who has the highest marks. You can simply write a loop which will iterate over the entire list and it will find out the people with maximum marks. Now third advantage is flexibility. So you can run the loop based on some conditions. Until some conditions are met, you can run the loop, right? For example, you may want to run the loop for 2000 times. Even though there are 1000 entries in a table, you want to see only 2000 entries. That is possible, right? So which means you can put conditions in the loops, that because of which it becomes flexible, right? So what you can do is there is something called as break statement. We will see it later. So whenever you have processed 2000 units or 2000 records, you can say break by using break statement. Okay, now in Python there are two types of loops. One is for loop and the other one is while loop. There is no do while loop in Python. The reason why there is no do while loop is because of the indentation problem. You have seen that, right? Indentation. So if you put do while, the indentation will be a problem. And also remember that when you are using for loop or while loop, indentation is important. When whatever is indented, whatever indented, right? So if there is for, you are going to start the next line at after 4 gaps. This is indentation. Now all these lines of code will fall under the for loop, for block. Now the loops in Python are used to iterate over sequences. So what are for loops used for? You can iterate over sequences, right? So what are the sequences? We have not studied this yet. I will teach you later. For now, don't worry about it. Just go through the video. I'll talk about it later. What are the sequences are? List is a sequence. Strings are sequences. Tuples, dictionaries, and even range of numbers is a sequence, right? So let's talk about range first, then we will talk about the other things, okay? So what is the syntax of a for loop? You have to write like this: for some variable in iterable. You have to write the code that has to be executed. This is the for loop or the block of for, okay? So for variable in iterable. Now what is this iterable? This iterable can be a string, or it can be a tuple, or it can be a list, it can be a dictionary, or it can be a range of numbers. Okay. Now variable will take each value one by one, and then it will execute this block of code for each value in the iterable. Okay. Now here variable is just a placeholder. Variable is just a placeholder. Variable is just a placeholder. You can have any variable name there. Okay. It takes on the value of each element in the iterable, which means this variable will take each value from the iterable, and for every value in the iterable it will execute the entire block of code once. Okay. The iterable is a collection. Collection is nothing but we can see the collections in Java also. So this list, tuple, range, they are collection of objects. They are not single object. They are collection of objects. And proper indentation is required for the code block inside the loop. So whenever you have a code block inside the loop, proper indentation is required. Now let us look at the range function. If you want to print numbers from 0 to 4, you can write range 5. Okay. I will talk about range now. So what is a range function is, it will give you a range of integers. It will give you a range of numbers, right? Whatever numbers you want, you can generate them. For example, when I write range of 5, the numbers generated will be from 0 to 4. By default, always the start element is 0 and the end element is whatever element you are given here, minus 1, right? So now what happens is, this I will take values from 0 to 4, and for every value it will execute the print statement, right? So range function generates a sequence of numbers and is commonly used in for loops, right? So range function generates a sequence of numbers and it's commonly used in for loops. We will dig deep in range. Okay. So range is generally capable of taking 3 parameters. All 3 are not necessary. One is sufficient. Okay. So range takes 3 arguments. So range has a capability to take 3 arguments, but it is not necessary to have all 3 arguments. One is sufficient. Okay. So range can take start, stop and step. Now what is start? Start is where you want to start the numbers from, right? By default it is 0. Start by default is 0. If you don't mention anything in the start, it is 0. And then you have stop, where you want to stop. So I just told you, right? When you write 5, stop is at 4, which means whatever number you write here in the stop, whatever number you write here, it will go till n-1, right? And step is by default 1. So the step is by default 1. It incrementally it increases in steps of 1. If we are only providing one value inside the range, it will take it as stop. Okay, so if you provide only one value, here you have done this, right? When you are providing only one value in range of 5, it will take it as stop. Now what happens to the start and step? Start will be 0, step will be 1, right? So when you don't specify anything for start and step, start will be 0 and step will be 1. Okay. Now writing range of 5, what happens internally is, it will be converted to range of 0, 5, 1, which means start is 0, end is 5 and step is 1. Since Python already has a default value for start and step, so Python has default values, right? For start is 0, step it is 1. If you provide only one value, then range will take it as stop. Okay, we have seen that. Now, even though you are writing range of 5, internally it is taken as range of 0, 5, 1. Start will be 0, end will be 5, therefore we will end at 4, and step will be 1. That is why output is coming in steps of 1. 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. Output is coming in steps of 1. Okay, so this is not right. We are starting from 0, 0 is included, and we are going till 5, 5 is excluded, 5 is excluded. So you can also write it in Google Colab and see. For I in range of 5, print I. What is printed? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is printed. Okay. Now, range with 2 arguments. So what happens when you give 2 arguments? So first argument will be taken as start, and second argument will be taken as stop. So start is 1, stop is 7. So what will be printed in this case? And step by default is taken as 1. So what is that it will print? So you are going to start with 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 will not be printed because 7 is the end, stop, right? So stop means 7 minus 1, 6 will be printed. But we are starting from 1. That is why it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now, if I give 1 comma 7, range 1 comma 7, start will be 1 and end will be 6, right? Actually end is 7, but it will stop at 6, which means n minus 1. Even if you do in Colab, you will see that 1 to 6 are printed when you are printing the value of I. Now what if you give 3 arguments, which means start is given, end is given and step is given, right? So start is 2, end is actually 10, but it will become 9 because I told you n minus 1 rule, and step will be 2, which means every time it will increment by steps of 2. Then what will happen? 2 will be printed, then step of 2 4, step of 2 6, step of 2 8, right? It will not cross 9. Now even here range of 2, 10 and 2, range 2, 10 and 2 are given. Even here what happens is we are going to start with 2 and we are going to end at 9, and steps will be 2. So 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8. Okay. So range function. If you want to learn more about range function, you can type help range in Google Colab. You just write this if you want to know more. I have explained you a lot about range, and still if you want to learn more, if you want to learn about anything, you just type help followed by that help. In the parenthesis you say range, then you are going to get the entire information about the range. Okay, go through it. Now range of 1, 9, 2. So it will start at 1, and the steps are 2, that is why 3, 5, 7, and it will end at 8, right? So it will not cross 8. So now if you go for one more step, it is supposed to print 9, but then the ending is at 8. So range 1, 9, 2. So what does range 1, 9, 2 mean? Starting with 1, ending at 8, steps of 2. If you do it in Colab, you are going to get this output. Starting at 1, steps of 2 and ending at 8. Now if you increase the step size to 3, then what happens? Starting at 1, ending at 8, and steps is 3. So starting at 1, ending at 8, steps is 3. 1, 4, 1, 3, 1, 4, 7, right? And even same thing is here, 1, 9, 3. Starting, even if you do it in Colab, you will get the same. So starting with 1, steps are 3, and we are going till 8, right? So 1, steps is 3, going till 8, not going beyond 8. Okay. You can also create a table of any number you want. For example, I want to create 17 table, right? What I could do is I could start with 17 and I could step through 17 and I could write the end number I want to go with. If I write 300, then the end number is 299. Then the end number is 299, right? So here in this case, starting is 17 and we are incrementing it by 17. That is why we are getting a table of 17, and you can say till what number you want. You want till 299. 300 is specified, which means 299. So we are stopping at 289. Okay. Now we will see result of range in the list. Okay, right. So we are starting from minus 15 and we are going till minus 20 in the steps of 1. So we will not touch minus 20, we will stop at minus 19. Therefore, the range of values that are generated here are from minus 15 till minus 19. Now see this example. Starting is minus 25, ending is minus 20, and the step size is 3. Then what happens? From minus 25 you will go to minus 22. Now if I do one more step of minus 3, then it is supposed to give me minus 19, but you are not supposed to touch, go beyond. So what I mean to say is, write it on the number line, it will be clear. So 0, minus 1, minus 2, so on. There is minus 20, there is minus 25, there is minus 25, and here there is minus 19. No, here there is minus 21. Minus 21, right? So now what happens is we are starting from minus 25 from here, and step size is 3, which means 22, right? Step size is 3, 22, and then again step size is 3, minus 22, and again step size is 3, it will become minus 19, right? So you cannot go beyond minus 21. You cannot go beyond minus 21, therefore we will stop at minus 22. So minus 25 and minus 22. Now see this example. From minus 10 we are going till minus 20, and the step size is minus 1. So from minus 10 it will go to minus 20, but you are not supposed to touch minus 20. That is why we are stopping at minus 19. Okay, we are stopping at minus 19. Look at this example. From minus 30 we are going till minus 20 in steps of 1. From minus 30 we are going till minus 20 in steps of 1, but we are not going to touch minus 20. That is why it is minus 21. Look at this example. From 10 we are going till 20 in steps of 2, right? So 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, but you should not touch 20, right? That is why we are stopping at 18, because if you go further you will be touching 20. We should not touch 20. Now see this example. From 30 we are going till 20 in steps of minus 2. So 30, 28, 26, 27, 22, you cannot go further because you will touch 20. You are not supposed to touch 20. Now let's see this example where we are starting from 30 and ending at 20 in steps of minus 3. So what are the numbers that will be generated in this range? So one is we are starting from 30, right? So 30, and we are going towards 20. So you write down the numbers, that will give you a clear picture, right? So from 30 to 20 we are going. So 30, 29, 28, 27, so on. You will get 21, then 20, right? So now what does this mean? We are starting from 30 and you are not supposed to go till 20. You are supposed to stop at 21. If the number 21 comes in the picture, we will write it, right? So what is the range? Range is minus 3, which means 30, after that 27, after that 24, after that 21, right? So till 21 only we will go. We will not go beyond 21, or even if 20 is in the range, we will not print it because we should not touch 20, right? So now we will go through lists, okay? So in lists also you can loop through it. Any iterable you can loop through it. For example, there is a list, okay? So what is a list? We will see that later. So there is a list called players. Now inside the list there is Jaiswal, Rohit, Rahul, Virat, Pant. 5 elements are present. Now you can iterate over these elements. How? By writing like this. For PL, PL is a variable in the players. Players is nothing but a list. Print PL. If you write like this, Jaiswal will be printed, Rahul will be printed, Virat will be printed, Pant will be printed. Okay. So you can iterate over a list. Then you can take each element and do whatever you want. In this case, we are just printing. In other cases, you can process them. Okay. Now we can also iterate over a string. For example, if there is a string called RBR space sir, then what happens is, if you iterate over this string by writing for C in name, print C. For C in name, print C, then what will be printed is RBR, RBR in single, in every line one character will be printed. Why? Because every time when you call print, it is going into the next line. By default, the end character is new line, right? You already have seen that, right? So now RBR, there is a space. Why? Because there is a space here. And then SIR sir, SIR sir, right? Now one thing you have to identify, understand here is, coming to a list, we have iterated over the elements of the list. Coming to a string, we have iterated over the characters in the string, right? This entire string is not taken as a single entity, but in list, entire string is taken as a single entity. That is the difference, okay? So in a list, each element is taken. In a string, each character is taken when we are going through the loop. Now let us see nested loops. So you can have one loop. Also, I want to talk about else part. Where is else? Here it is else. Okay, I'll come to that point. Okay. So now let us see nested loop. So in nested loop, what happens is, you can put one loop inside other loop. For example, for I in the range of 1, 2, indentation is given for j in the range of 3. So what does that mean? This for loop is inside this for loop. That is called as nesting, right? So this for loop is inside this for loop. That is called nesting of for loops, right? Now what will happen if you write range of 2? What happens is, two numbers will be taken here, right? So 0 is the starting number, 1, which means the outer loop is going to execute 2 times and the inner loop is going to execute 3 times, because range of 3 is given, right? So 0, 1, 2. Now what are you printing? You are printing the value of j. You are printing the value of the j, which is a loop variable in the inner for loop. Then what will be printed? 0, 1, 2 will be printed once for 0, and then 0, 1, 2 will be printed once for 1. 0, 1, 2 will be printed once for 1. Right. Now, let us say we have a table like this. Rows are starting from number 0. Row number 0, row number 1, row number 2. Columns are starting from 0. Column number 0, column number 1, column number 2, column number 3. Okay. Now, you want to process this table. You want to go into each cell and see what it is. You can easily do it with nested for loop, right? So what we can do is nested for loop. For rows, you can use I. For I in the range of rows. So what happens? It will start from 0 and it will go to number of rows minus 1. For j in range of columns, then what will happen? It will start from 0 and it will go to columns minus 1, right? That is what it is, right? So for example, here how many rows are there? Number of rows are 3. Now what will that for loop do? It will start from 0 and it will go till 2. 3 minus 1, that is the that is in range. I told you, right, about range. It will not go till the end, it will just go 1 before that, right? And here columns are 4, columns are 4, columns are 4. We are starting from 0 and the last one will be 3. So when I say columns in the range 4, then it will go till 3, right? So that is why we are able to get, if you write row and column like this using f string row of I, column of j, then row 0, column 0, which means initially for a given row 0, all the columns will be visited. And then for row 1, all the columns will be visited. Row 2, all the columns will be visited. All the columns will be visited. Now assume that the rows are not starting from 0. See, that is what happens in data science. Sometimes the rows starts with 0, sometimes the rows start with 1. Now assume that rows are starting with 1. So we have to go from 1 to 3 in the rows, and columns are starting from 1, 2, 3, 4. We are going for 4. So for I in the range of 1 to rows plus 1, 1 to rows plus 1. For j in the range of 1 to columns plus 1, 1 to columns plus 1. So what does this mean? We are starting from 1 and we are writing rows plus 1 so that we will go till, so I will just show you here, okay? So from where to where should rows go? Rows should go from 1 to 3, right? Row 1, row 2, row 3. That is why starting value will be 1 and the end stop value will be 4. That is why it is rows plus 4. Columns are starting from 1 to 4, right? Columns are starting from 1 to 4. Columns are starting from 1 to 4. Therefore, starting value will be 1. Starting value will be 1. And the ending value will be 5. Stop value will be 5, so that you will go from 1 to 4. If I write 1 comma 4 in range in this range 1 comma 4, I will be going from 1 to 3. If I write 1 comma 5, I will be going from 1 to 4, right? 1 to 4, right? So that is why we are writing rows plus 1, columns plus 1. Now when you try to print it, you are going to get row 1, columns are 1, 2, 3, 4. Row 2, columns are 1, 2, 3, 4. Row 3, columns are 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So you have to add, this is something that comes with practice. You should know when to add a 1, when not to add a 1, right? Later when we discuss algorithms, we will discuss this in detail. When to add 1, when to add a 0, right? When to not to add 1, okay? Now there is one more interesting property or if a functionality, I can tell you. One more interesting functionality in Python is you can have a else with a for. This is not available in other programming languages. Only Python has it, which means, let us say there is a list, okay, list of cricket players. Now we are having a for loop. So the for loop is looping over the list. Now we can have a else after for. At the same level of indentation, we are going to have else, same level of indentation, and in the else we have a statement. So this is nothing but the else block. Else block has only one statement, and after this else is over, there is one more statement. So all these three statements are in the same indentation. So this is the for loop, for block, this is the else block. Now what happens here is, initially for loop will execute. So for loop will loop over all the elements. For loop will loop over all the elements, and after for loop has looped over all the elements, okay, for loop has looped over all the elements. If there is no break, if there is no break in the for loop, if there is no break in the for loop, then else will execute. So understand this. This is somewhat difficult to understand. if the for loop has executed successfully without breaking in between, if the entire iterable, which means the collection, if the entire list is processed without any breaks, then else will get executed, right? Otherwise, else will not get executed. So in this case, what happens? We are going through all the elements in the list, and then we are saying that else is executed. Saw the players in the list successfully, and then we are saying that for loop is completed. For loop is completed is here, right? So whenever there is no break in for loop, you can easily, whenever there is no break in for loop, you can see else will get executed, and you can write anything in the else. Okay. So for example, in this case, the loop iterates two players and executes else block, and after that, okay, it is the same, whatever we have examined. But now when there is a break, else loop will not be executed, right? So else loop will be executed only if the loop runs to completion. If it is interrupted by a break statement, else loop will not get executed. So what I mean to say is, the syntax is going to be like this. So the syntax is, for loop is there, else is there, okay, for loop is there, else is there, this end has to come here, okay, for loop is there, else is there. Now if for loop is not broken in between, else will execute. If it is broken in between, else will not get executed. Let's take an example and see it, okay. So now if you observe it, there is a list, we are iterating in the for loop over the list, Now when the player is Rahul, we are writing break, which means there is a break in the for loop. Then what happens? Is whenever there is a break, else will not get executed. Initially, JSON will be processed successfully and it will be printed because print is here. Rohit will get successfully executed and it will be printed. And when it comes to Rahul, break will be executed. Because of executing the break, this line is not executed. Because of the break, this line, print saw the player list successfully, this line will not be executed because of break. This line will not be executed because of break, right? And after that, this one will get executed because this is the outer loop. This has no relation with for and else. It is independent line. So for loop completed is done, right? So else will not get executed. Okay. Loops iterates through place. Okay, this is what we have done. We have just seen. Now, one more thing is, if there is a break statement in a for loop, there is no guarantee that it will be executed. That depends on the condition, right? Whenever there is a break in a for loop, there is no guarantee that it will get executed. It may or may not get executed depending on the condition. For example, see this, players are all given in a list. Now we are iterating over the list by using the for. Now inside for, there is a if statement. Now the if statement says that if player equal to Rinku, then break, but there is no Rinku, therefore there is no break, so break will not happen here, therefore else statement will be executed. Store the player list successfully will be executed, right? So what you have to understand here is, simple, a very small thing. Whenever break is present, it doesn't mean that code will break. Only when the condition is true, the code will break, right? So whenever there is a break in the for loop, it does not mean that it will get executed. That depends on the condition. It may or may not get executed. If it is not executed, then the for loop will run to completion. If the for loop has run to completion, then else statement will take place. Right? So these are some of the very important interview questions. So see, in this video we have discussed a lot of interview questions. At least for that you should like the video, right? Okay. So this is what we have seen just now. Now you can also iterate through empty iterables, which means empty collections. nothing will happen. You will not get any error, but you will not get any output. For example, if you write for I in empty list, if you write print I, nothing will print, nothing will be printed because it is empty, right? But no error. Similarly, if you have a null string and if you try to print it, if you try to iterate over it and print I, nothing will happen, right? And one more thing is, if you are having a loop variable, don't use it for any other purpose. A loop variable's purpose should be only only used for loop variable. It should not be used for other purpose. For example, if you write like this, for I equal to I in range of 5, print I equal to 100, and then again print I. Then what happens is, initially 0 to 5 means what? Range 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 0 to 5 means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Now 0 is printed. Then I is made 100. I is printed. Then again when it goes back, again in the next loop, I will become 1. That is the problem. See, you made I as 100, but since it is a loop variable, when it goes back into the loop, it will be treated as, it will get the value of 1. And again you are making it 100, and again when it goes back to for loop, it will make it as 2. So what I mean to say is, here Python treats them as two different variables. Whenever a loop variable is used inside the program for a different purpose, Python will treat them separately. Even though both are i's, it will treat it as a different variable altogether. That is why it is taking the role of a loop controller as well as some other value. So avoid using it. So my suggestion would be avoid using I 2 times. See this. So for loops iterable will take priority, which means the I which is present in for is going to take more priority when you are having I in the for loop as well as I inside the for loop. When you are having I in the for loop and also inside the for loop you are using I for some other purpose, it will treat it differently. That is what I mean to say. Okay, so the value will change unpredictable. So what you are going to get is, there will be no error as such, but it will lead to confusion. So it will lead to confusion without any errors. See, at least if it gives us an error, we'll know that we have done something wrong. It will not even give you error. It will be confusing for anyone to read and understand it. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching this lecture. Please share this lecture with your friends. Please write some comment that will increase our reach, and also subscribe. We are doing a lot of hard work to bring this course to you for free. You should at least subscribe and tell your friends about it. Okay, thank you. If you want to take my GATE classes, we go to the website ravindrababuravula.in and you are going to see all my GATE classes available there. Okay, so coming to the classes, they are all recorded. Why am I doing recorded? Why am I not doing live classes? Is I have thousands of students registering for my courses every year, but then if I conduct a live class, only 20 or 30 people will be there. 20 or 30, that's it. Maximum is 40 I had. The reason is, live classes are little bit wasting your time. See, you cannot watch a live class at 2x speed. You have to watch at the pace at which I teach. Generally, I will be very, very slow while teaching. So if you can go through the live classes, you can watch them at 2x speed and you can complete the syllabus very fast. 400 plus hours content is there for GATE. And if you are going to watch them at normal pace, it will take 400 hours. But if you watch it at 2x speed, it will take just 200 hours, right? So if you want any of my GATE classes, GATE Computer Science or GATE DA, the price is just 10,000 rupees. It is very, very reasonable for the kind of quality we provide. We have test series, we have doubt sessions, we have videos, we have lecture notes for everything. Even you don't have to write any lecture notes. I will provide you lecture notes for every subject. You just have to sit back, watch the videos at 2x speed and revise the notes. Short notes will be provided, long notes will be provided, formulas will be written in the separate notes. Everything will be there provided to you. You don't have to work hard. And coming to, if you are planning to go abroad, we also have study abroad program. You can go through my number. My number is on WhatsApp. My WhatsApp number is in the website. If you are planning to do masters abroad, that is a very good choice. It is better than doing masters in India. So if you are planning to go abroad, we will help you out right from taking the passport to getting the visa, US visa, right? So we will help you out in the entire process. Okay. So do visit the website, see what is happening there. Even DSA course is there for 5,000 rupees, which is both in Python and C++.